the planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet
Earth.
A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet stupid.
No. It's the planet stupid.
Our guide for It's the Planet Stupid, eco-journalist Belinda Weymouth. Hi, Belinda. Thank you for being here. You give generously of your time. You are not compensated. And if we had money to give you, I would give it to you. I feel all we have is love, Belinda, and we give you that as much as we can. How are you?
Well, I'll take the love. Thanks.
You have good news of a sort, right?
It's both of the stories are good news. So yeah, sorry, Mark. I'm not taking us down today. I'm taking us up. That's where we need to go. We need to go up. So because we were talking about the right whales and what's happening with the Marine Mammal Protection Act last week, Kim and I. So, you've got Republicans who want to reduce and, minimize the protections that our big mammals out in the ocean are getting. So this is whales, polar bears, seals, all these guys, dolphins, and the right whale, the North Atlantic right whale. So this is a beleaguered species. I mean, this is one of the rarest whales in the world, and it's already, been on the brink of extinction when it was being hunted. That stopped. These protections that we have to protect the animals have actually been working. During the decade from 2010 to 2020, the population was really dropping. There are collisions with great big ocean liners, with cargo ships. There's fishing nets. There's overfishing of the sea creatures that they need to eat. And there was a turnaround.
And don't forget plastic garbage dumping.
That's what fishing nets are. Fishing nets are made of plastic. And if you see what they do to a whale, it is ghastly, absolutely ghastly. They get entangled, they get taken to the bottom of the ocean, and they drown. And then when the animal has decomposed and the net can go up again, it floats up again and entangles more animals, and it's like a killing machine. So these fishing trawlers that go out into the ocean and just dump their fishing nets once, because they don't want to take the weight of the fishing net back to port. They want to just have the whole boat filled with fish. This is a crime. Wow. Anyway, that's a different thing. But the story about the right whales. So, we talk about the population being at 400, which is minimal, but it's actually 384. It's only 384. But what happened over the last 4 years? There has been the 7% increase, and last year there were around 8 new calves that survived. And what's happened is, females have come to reproductive age, so there are more females who are reproducing. Females, and they need to be healthy to do this. If they've been hit by a ship, they're not going to be, having a baby that year. They've got a wound to recover from. So these protections are really important. And Canada has really upped their game, because what the right whales do is they go from Florida all the way up to the St. Lawrence Bay area in Canada, and Canada's really taking care of them. So we really have to stop the Republicans, going back on the Marine Protection Act, Marine Mammal Protection Act, the MMPA, and the fact that we have these good, that we are increasing, that we're seeing more babies, more calves. This is and they're just, they're. Like I said, they're one of the most, rare of the whale species, and they're right on our coast. So we really, we just have to take care of them.
What I also take away is that they're the beneficiaries of a lot of these policies that have now helped them. So these protections that are in place have indeed yielded some positive results, and now we're seeing all of these marine protections being taken away. That's where you get to my department and the righteous indignation associated with the fact that they are just rolling back every kind of environmental protection, and this protection is one of those that may be targeted.
Yeah, Get sanctimonious, Mark. Get sanctimonious. Get mad about it. Of course. I mean, self-righteous anger, about something like this, absolutely warranted, completely valid. You have my permission. Okay. So, I don't think you needed it. Actually, I think you can. I think you can manage this department really well on your own. So, have at it.
Tell me about the solar power story. I think that's interesting too.
This is amazing, and I'm really happy about this. So this is transformational. So solar power right now, as far as global electricity production, they say it's anywhere between 7 to 10% is coming from solar panels. It's super, super important. And we've been discussing on the show recently, that now you can get a solar panel. If you live in an apartment, you can put it on your balcony, you can put it on a hut in sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, they're so applicable to, decentralized power, basically, is what it is. Decentralized power. And I really love it that, people can go, hey, I'm just going to put it on my balcony and, start generating my own electricity. So the thing that's, I think I remember you were really shocked when I told you this one. So silicon panels, the ones that we use right now, so the traditional photovoltaic, they're incredibly inefficient. This is China with their new one. So China is boasting that they're up to being able to capture up to 34% of the sun's power that it's sending down. And what it's all about, it's about the spectrum of light. So right now with a traditional photovoltaic, which is made from silicon, they're not very efficient. They need the shortwave high energy part of the spectrum, which limits it just to UV and blue light. So what they're doing at their best is they can absorb 21 to 23% of the solar energy they're being hit with. That's not huge, a huge number, 23%. That's a lot of light that's not being used. At their peak, theoretically, they say we could get it up to 33%. But there are startups all over the world, and you'll be pleased to hear that they're also in operation here at MIT and Stanford. I maybe shouldn't say that out loud, but the one that is really cool right now is Oxford PV, so that's a part of Oxford University. They've been working on this. They're called tandem cells, and the miracle mineral is called Perovskite. Perovskite was discovered back in 1839 in the Ural Mountains, and we can now make it. Yeah, there they are making these new fabulous. They're called tandem. So they use the technology we already use. They use the silicon, but then they put perovskite on as well. And perovskite can be made from very readily available, so from bromine, chlorine, tin, and lead. And you put these together and you make perovskite. It's very thin, and it is going to take the efficiency and how much of the sun's rays, because it can get infrared. So theoretically, what it will be able to do is absorb up to 47% of the light that is hitting it, the solar radiation. And this is going to be a game changer.
Yeah, that's transformative. I mean, that's a huge number.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. It's really, it's amazing. Now, it hasn't had the real world tests that our traditional photovoltaic, which have been out in the world for 30 years. And we know that, they last about 30 years. And how long will these guys last? And at Oxford, they're really testing them in these sort of, not real world, but, inside the lab, they're really, pushing the aging process on them. Like, how long can you last out there? They're also working, and this is really important, Mark, this is really different to traditional, coal and gas. How do we recycle these? How do we make them so that they're optimally, say it for me, please.
Yeah, optimally.
Optimally, thank you. They're optimally recyclable, that we can take, all the products out, we can separate them, and we can really recycle them and not produce, just more waste. The world is already dealing with, too much waste. So it's really exciting. And that one that you showed the picture of before, China is saying that they've already got their tandems, their perovskite and silicon solar panels producing, 34 or absorbing 34%. Everyone else is saying, we're around the, 24, 25%, but what we're aiming for is the 47. And what the math shows, which is really important, is if you can make a solar panel that is that efficient, you're going to take the cost of energy down by 10%, the cost of electricity. And this is really important for the UK because they pay so much for their heating in the winter. They're using oil. You go to a house, in the UK, in the winter, it's freezing because they don't turn on their heating because it costs too much money.
Sure.
Really, it's a health problem for their elderly. I have a stepmother who lives in London, and I have to say, have you got the heating turned on? Please turn it on, because they don't, because they're nervous about, how much the bills are.
Well, maybe send the stepmother some money, Belinda. Did you ever think of that? I mean, how she can afford the heat? I mean, I don't know. It sounds like you just hector the poor lady and she doesn't have any money.
She does have money. That's the problem. She just doesn't know it.
I'm sure she does. I'm kidding.
So yeah, it's there are a few things, there are a few factors there that I'm dealing with, Mark. But it's just.
I'll tell you just as an aside, I would say it's just interesting to see environmentalists generally, or those who are concerned with producing a kind of sustainable energy through, in this case, solar power. It's interesting to see them also worry about the refuse. You don't find that, I think, in a lot of other kind of mining for energy. I mean, certainly don't find it in coal, as the slurry just goes down from coal plants into rivers and streams and poisons and toxifies entire environments downstream. You don't find it with oil rigs. You don't find it with fracking, where the discharge from it and the refuse from these various exercises and various instruments that are used in all of these ways to get energy, the refuse just there's no concern for it. So you have contaminated water that's toxifying other water supplies, toxifying soil. So it's wild then, though, when you turn to the sustainable people, when they're about the solar, they're all concerned about, well, what's going to happen to those solar panels? I get that this is revolutionary, but we have to, the downstream part of this, where we actually have to replace the solar panels, what's going to happen to that stuff? I love that that's part of the equation. Ideally, I'd love to see the human race think, because we have been given this amazing instrument to be able to reason and think ahead. You'd like to be able to think out and game out the sustainability, so you'd be able to actually have limitless energy, and you could do it sustainably. And that's kind of what the environmentalists are doing.
Yeah. Well, this is what it's sort of like the polar opposite of what traditional energy sources do. I mean, as you just described, very eloquently. This is what's so great about it. And the other thing is, because the people who are working on this, they're super driven, and the thing that's amazing about perovskite as well is it's very thin little cells. And what they say is they're going to be able to spray it on surfaces. So spray it onto windows. So your windows will, that are in the sun will be creating solar energy. And then they have this other thing, which I thought was so cool. You spray it on the roof of an electric car. Now, an electric car, has a great big battery, and it couldn't run just on panels on the roof. That wouldn't produce enough energy for it. But say your battery is running low, but you've got perovskite cells on the top. They could be that little bit of energy that you need to get you to the charging station, or get you over the little hump that you're facing. So it's just clever. And the applications of all these things, I mean, it's so much more sophisticated than, drill a hole in the ground and take out as many of the old dinosaurs, or, dinosaurs and the plants and all those things that, decomposed and turned into coal and, gas and oil.
Yeah, sure. Fossil fuel harvesting is just a much, much, much dirtier business.
Yeah. And the thing about it is it's completely linear. And this is the problem with a lot of things in capitalism. They're completely linear. You extract, you manufacture, you sell, you make a profit. And at the end of the line, I'm trying to keep my finger on the screen, is the mess. But the mess isn't your problem. And what we're trying to do here is go circular, which is more sustainable on a planet which is finite. And I used this quote last week. He's an Australian writer, and he talks about capitalism. He calls it Western modern, and that what it promises is infinite theft on a finite world. And we can't do this anymore. We can't just keep extracting and thinking that we can live this way. And so it is really encouraging, and I hope our audience take hope from this, that in spite of what's happening in the White House, and in spite of Trump basically rewarding the fossil fuel industry, which donated, I think, upwards of $75 million to help him get re-elected this time. So what he's doing during the shutdown is all these federal workers aren't at work, except for the ones who give out oil and gas permits. They're looking at opening up 25,000 acres in Wyoming to some sort of extractive whatever. I mean, they're looking at, a copper mine in Utah, expanding that. All these things that are happening, while federal employees who we actually really need, who take, care of our health and well-being, aren't at work, aren't being paid. The oil and the fossil fuel companies are being rewarded right now.
That's certainly true, and that's always been the strategy, is that those who gave to the campaign, and he had a relationship with, that pre-existed him becoming president, they'd be taken care of. I will say one thing, just because you mentioned fossil fuel and fossil fuel production and the leasing of oil, well, so it kind of gets me onto something, and I'll just mention this super quickly, and that is that there's also at the urging of Donald Trump, and these new kind of super warm relations with the oil-producing nations of the Middle East, there has been an increase in production of oil, and that's designed to lower oil prices and lower prices at the pump, this kind of thing. But what has been the result of that as well? The desire to pump more oil and the desire to do more oil exploration has been reduced. So you have a lot of these companies that would be in the business of drilling in Wyoming that are going, thanks for the leases, but we may wait on the drilling to see where the market is. There has to be enough of an economic incentive for these companies to begin their drilling. And so you may actually see oil wells capped during the Trump administration because of these other policies. This is the way this stuff all works together. But whatever the situation, the only way to live is the sustainable energy route and the sustainable life route. Everything should be sustainable. And even as you say, we take 2 steps back in the U.S. It's great to see the research continue. I know Europe, I know Asia, even as they do involve themselves in less than clean energy, they really involve themselves in sustainable energy. I feel like they really see the path forward better than we do.
Well, because it's cheaper, and it makes economic sense. And also the thing that Trump talks about here, this energy crisis, it's a fiction. There's not an energy crisis, and we were already producing more oil and gas than everyone else.
It's one of many fictions that's being proffered by this administration.
Yeah, don't get us started. Don't get us started. We were on such a good note, Mark.
You did have good news, though. The whales and this new breakthrough in solar energy, that is really good news, so thank you for sharing it. You can find Belinda Weymouth across social media. Belinda Weymouth is Waymouth. She's here on Wednesdays so generously, and I just love seeing you. Thank you for being here.
It's totally my pleasure, Mark. You have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye.
You too. Belinda Weymouth, everybody. That's It's the Planet, Stupid.
More
It's the Planet Stupid. No, it's the Planet Stupid.
next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.